I'm ready with you.
What up, what up, what up? Football fans all over the world. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan, here with my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for that real deal NFC East round up. Punch that intro. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. Apologize for the late start. I had a little work emergency I had to attend to, and we're here now. So, Adam, how you doing this afternoon, man?
I am good. It's back. We finally have some games to talk about. It's fun. Football's here. Football's finally here.
Absolutely. It is here, man. We're gonna get right to it, man. What's going on, Alex, man? Thanks for stopping through, brother. Hope everything is going great with you, man.
What's going on, Alex?
But let's get to it, man. Let's talk. I guess the Philadelphia Eagles get the week started off in the division. All four teams play on different days this week, so it's kind of crazy. All four teams is all spread out, I think, or maybe the Giants and Cowboys both play Saturday. I can't remember. Either way, I know the Eagles start the week off tomorrow night, playing the Cincinnati Bengals in the preseason, man. Not a lot building up to this. Obviously, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get. We know we're gonna get. Not gonna get any of the starters takes on the Eagles this week, Adam.
Well, I think they're going to just teams that win. They're in gear up mode, meaning you're probably not going to see any of the starters at all, if any. I doubt they'll even be dressed. They'll probably warm up and do that normal thing, and then they'll be off in their jerseys eating fucking sunflower seeds on the sideline, right? This is a chance, if you're an Eagle fan, and I love preseason for this, where you get to see the younger guys on your team who might make it, the draft picks that we talk about, the new acquisitions that may come in, the guys like an Azeez Ojulari. I said he hasn't had a great journey in practice, right? He hasn't been able to kind of, usurp the guy they brought in from Pittsburgh, Uche or something like that. It's a chance for the Eagles to get a shot at him and showcase, what he can do. And I think at the end of the day, preseason, I think is necessary, but they're dumb because they're cutting back on it. Because I do believe you need a lot of continuity. But for the Eagles, it's different. You just won the Super Bowl in February, and now you're here in July. You don't really have the off season the same way as everybody else. So I understand why they would sit everybody and not let them play, because their journey is not worrying about what Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts or any of those guys. Their journey is to be as healthy as possible so that when they open the season against the Cowboys, that they have all their horses in the stable. Because when they do get going, and they will get going, they want their healthy. They want to be a healthy team, because right now they are the front runner. You can't look at the NFC and say anybody else is not the front runner to do this. Even you could say the Lions, but the Eagles are the top dog. They showed you that last year. They're coming in trying to feel like that. This is just a chance for them to see their young guys. And this is where Howie Roseman, we get to see how good of an executive he is, because I'm sure there's someone on this Eagles team that's going to end up somewhere else that we're like, man, the Eagles had them and just couldn't fit them on the roster because their team is so talented.
Well, speaking of young guys, man, tomorrow, one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, the one that's been the talk of the town kind of in training camp, first round pick Jahad Campbell, man. I've been turning heads in Eagles camp, man. I'm hearing all the veteran players speak very highly of this young man. You heard anything about Jahad Campbell and his progress throughout training camp thus far?
Well, he's exceeding expectations, and he's basically doing things that they didn't expect him to do. Every rookie has a learning curve, and apparently he's picking up things a lot quicker. And it helps when you have guys like Jeremiah Trotter, Jr., you have Nakobe Dean, you have Zach Bond, you have guys already in the system, so he didn't have to do much. But he's coming in with that chip on his shoulder, and again, the rich get richer, right? I think he'll be a contributing factor. How quickly, I have no idea. We don't. He doesn't have the same pressure as other draft picks in this division, where you're out the gate, you're expecting greatness. This guy was coming in and kind of trying to ease his way on the field, and right now he's crushing it in camp, and that's what you want to hear, especially if you're a Philadelphia fan. And I hate to say this, I think it's good for them that he's absorbing this. It's good that he's improving, that he's able to ingest the defense that Vic Fangio is throwing at him, because remember, Vic Fangio is a complicated defensive coordinator. He doesn't just have a lot of easy vanilla. He has a lot of exotic blitzes and a lot of calls and a lot of things that your linebackers have to do. And depending on how they use him, and I think they're going to use him in multiple ways, I think he's going to be a jackknife type of player or a Swiss Army knife type player, where you're going to line him up on the edge, you're going to line him up in the middle, you're going to line him up, back because he's going to be covering somebody. He's going to be that type of player because they don't have to worry about him fitting into a role. They can just put him where they think he's best suited. And hey, we need you to come in this blitz. Boom, right up the A gap. They need you to come off the edge. Boom, he can do that, right? So because he's doing what he's doing, ingesting this defense, the more he knows, the better he'll become, the easier it'll be to put the chess pieces out there and kind of outmaneuver the offense, right? We always talk about the offense attacking, the defense. Well, the defense is going to now start to attack offenses if your corners are solid and Eli Rogers and Kelly Ringo and the kid that got last year, the two kids that got last year, Mitchell and Dijon, right? These are pretty solid. Your linebacking core that's good, and your front seven that is led by Jalen Carter and a slimmed down Jordan Davis, right? So then now you can bring in a Jahad Campbell with all the guys who just mentioned and add him as an X factor piece on the defense. And this is what good teams do. They find good players in all types of rounds, and they have a purpose. And this defense, one that we talked about early on, right? They've been building this defense for about 3 years. They started in 2022 after they lost that Super Bowl. And Vic Fangio come in, kind of reestablished. Then, they had the Steichen guy who came in, and they left and went, and they had the I forget who they had. They had a defensive coordinator that they fired, and then, of course, they bring in Vic Fangio in 2024, and everyone's like, well, we don't know what's going to happen, and they came in like a glove. Now you're just adding more pieces on top of that. I don't know what their defense is going to be. I just know their defense was good last year, and it was number one in many categories. And when you add a guy like Jahad Campbell, who you don't have to slow the learning curve down for, it allows you to do a lot more with your defense.
Yeah, good stuff. And also back there in the secondary with this Philadelphia Eagle team, you mentioned you had brought up Azeez Ojulari, former Giant over there with the Eagles this season, but another former Giant that's over with the Eagles has been making some waves in training camp as well. I mean, moving up their depth chart right now. As a matter of fact, kind of plugged in as the cornerback number 2 right now. Adoree Jackson, man. Got any thoughts on maybe him having a rebound year with a championship caliber team like the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, probably I don't want to say no. Sometimes you get rejuvenated going into a building, right? And there's guys that you're familiar with Azeez, with Barkley, right? Barkley's been there. They just won a championship, and you understand what's at stake, right? So it's not that the Giants, he was bad there, right? He was injured and he didn't play up to par. But if he's able to come back and give them some type of play to allow them to move Cooper DeJean inside because of the loss of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, it'll help them immensely. He's still got some speed. I'm not saying he's the guy who's going to come up and tackle, but he can at least run with a receiver. He's still got that. He's still pretty young. I think he's like 29, 30. So he's not like over-the-hill type of old. And, we've seen guns for hire do well. Guys like Stephon Gilmore and a few others come to mind. Patrick Peterson, right? Guys who have just, they're on different levels, but they are on teams with 1-year deals because they have enough skill set to fit in their defense. I think he might be better in this defense and allow him to do more in this defense. He doesn't have to be asked to be the number one guy. So he's going to be on teams number twos most of the time. So that'll allow him to get a little bit more ahead. And if he's playing, sometimes you go to, they say it's not always greener on the other side. Well, guess what? He went to a green team and it's greener pastures right now. And, he's coming to a team where they have Super Bowl aspirations. You're not going to want to let them down. Those are big aspirations, right? Those are big shoes to fill. You don't want to be the guy that's giving up on the play. So good for him. We'll see what happens if it translates. Right now it's early. Or Dory Jackson has a history of getting injured. I don't want to put that out there in the airspace for him, but it's his history. And if he can make it and he can play well, this may take this defense to another level. Think about this, 2 shutdown corners or 2 guys that are competent corners plus the rest of your front 7. It's I hate to say it, it's insane to think about. It really is.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it maximizes, like you said, if Dory Jackson can work out on the outside there and you can move Cooper DeJean in there to kind of fill that void left by C.J. Gardner-Johnson, that's this clutch right there. That's what it's all about, getting your best 11 out there on the field and making it happen. But on the injury front with the Eagles, man, they've been a little banged up throughout the training camp and the offseason thus far a little bit. Nothing like anything to get too concerned about, but like a couple key players, Zach Bond, AJ Brown, they just got Devontae Smith just came back, got back to action. Think any have any cause for concern with the injuries with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Not really. I think a lot of these guys, they'll wait for the season. That's why you bring in the 90-man roster. And because of the way the rules are, you have the 90-man roster all the way until the last preseason game. So these guys don't have to touch anything, right? Now, would you like them to get some reps in a game? I always believe live bullets are always good. But if you're telling me get live bullets or save him for Dallas, I'd rather save him for Dallas, right? And hope that these guys can make it for the season. A lot of these injuries are not devastating injuries, right? They're not out for, the season, or they're not out for like 10 weeks or 2 months. I mean, I heard about a guy today I forget what team it was, but they said he was out about 6 weeks, right? And you're like, he might make it to the start of camp. It's like, oh, wow, that's cool. It was a guy from Arizona that got drafted. I forget what his name was. It's eluding me. But anyways, it's a first-round draft pick. And he's like, the reporter's like, yeah, he'll be out 6 weeks, which might butt up against the first week of the year. And you're like, oh, okay, he'll still be there for the season. And the guy mentioned this. He said, you want that guy to be there later on down the road, right? So the big picture is no long-term injuries, which means they have a chance to repeat, and they're looking to go to Dallas fully healthy. So I'm not concerned about them. Now, if you tell me that, the end of the year, they're still dealing with some nagging things, maybe we'll be concerned. But again, this is an Eagle team that's dealt with injuries. They know how to navigate these things. And, as long as their guys are not out for a long time, they have the depth to survive most, couple game injuries.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you're just saying right now. This Philadelphia Eagle team is just so locked and loaded, man. They're so dialed in. Like you said, I feel like you said, I mentioned it before. I used to talk about it all the time last season. That next man up thing with the Eagles, it's a real thing, man. They seem like their guys are always ready, no matter what. When the numbers called, they seem like they always got somebody that's ready to step in and do whatever needs to be done, man. But don't really expect much from this game tomorrow night from the Eagles. Like I said, obviously the win, the loss means absolutely nothing. But I just don't really know what they're really going to expect to really see. What you're going to get out there. Like I said, it's going to be mostly it's probably not even going to be, it's going to be mostly there's twos and threes pretty much playing. You know what I mean? A lot of their, get some time in for the UDFAs and stuff like that, the young guys. Like you said, this is that show. This is the preseason. This is what it's all about anymore. Is showcase for the young guys to get an opportunity to make a name for themselves. Because even if they don't catch on with their respective teams now, at least go out there and show what you can do, and maybe somebody else might recognize that talent and might need to grab you up once you get down to the cuts and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have any expectations from this game tomorrow night.
Not really. Like I said, I mean, the one expectation you want, no injuries or no devastating injuries. Guys are going to get banged up. It happens. But again, the one thing I will say is we'll see the cornerback battle. I'm not sure they can sit both Adoree Jackson and the Kelly Ringo out there. I think they want to see that battle, so that'll be something I'm looking at. The Jackson, can he win that cornerback number 2 spot? And obviously those guys will probably switch between the first and second team, and then they'll probably pull down at halftime. Other than that, I want to see what Tanner McKee can do. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They have A.J. Dillon. I wonder how much he's going to play with Will Shipley as well. Some of their backup receivers, they don't have a depth. The one thing I can tell you about the Eagles is they don't have great depth on their receiving core, right? They have a good tight end, but their receivers fall off after Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So I'm looking to see if they can find a number 3 with Dotson. I think they were also brought in Terrence Marshall Jr., one of those guys, to see if they can step up. I know they drafted a guy late, I think, as well. See if they can get a third receiver out of this. If they can get a third receiver in this offense that's already potent, they can be unstoppable. Think of the greatest show on turf. They were good with Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, right? Then they added Aziz Zakeem. And then all of a sudden, Ricky Prohl came into the mix. And next thing you know, they got 4 guys on the field, 5 guys on the field, they're playing a track meet. So if I'm the Eagles, that's what I'm looking for this week.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny you brought that up because Dotson, from what I've been hearing, has been really building quite a rapport with Jalen Hurts. Because he really, when they made the trade for him last season, I thought he was going to have a bigger impact even last year on that roster, and it never came to fruition. But they said so far, things I'm hearing is that he's been really stepping up and really building quite a lot of chemistry with Jalen Hurts. So looking for him to be a bigger part of that offense this season, and that could just be another dynamic weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, he is a guy that, like you said, was a high draft pick for the Commanders, kind of didn't pan out there. They made the trade for him to have a third receiver. And if he can win that job, the Eagles become very potent at that point, right? And he's right. That guy says it's a contract year. Either way, even if it's the contract year, that bodes well for the Eagles, because that means you're probably going to get his best effort, which means you're probably going to see him down the road. So we'll see what happens, But if he can win that job, it changes, again, the offense. You don't need a third receiver to be spectacular in this day and age, especially if you tight end like Dallas Goedert, right? He's essentially your third receiver. Your third receiver on the field by position, if he can make some catches, which he made some clutch catches down the stretch for the Eagles on some third downs, if he can build that rapport now being in the second year of the offense, and sometimes a change of scenery, again, championship teams can change your mindset. You walk into a building where these guys know how to win, they don't like to then say, oh, I want to be the guy that costs us the championship. They have that mentality now. It wasn't there in Washington. I don't want to slander them and how they did things. Maybe he just wasn't happy. And even if it's a contract year, then we'll see. Like I said, imagine a third receiver legit in this offense. They'll be unstoppable.
Absolutely. I mean, they'll definitely be very, very dangerous, man, because like you said, it's not many teams can run out the top 2 like they already have. And if you can add a third guy that can add some kind of be dynamic as well, that just makes them even that much more lethal, man. But up here in the comments, I want to say thank you for stopping in too, Jack Straw and Gregory Leon Watson. I appreciate you guys stepping in. Gregory had said earlier up here that Cincinnati is going to be reporting that they're going to be playing their offense. Will be playing Joe Burrow, and the offense will play. Probably won't play much. Probably won't play more than a series or 2 regardless. But either way, that does give the Eagles defense an opportunity to go out there and kind of see what they got right now early at this stage of the preseason.
Well, again, I'm not taking anything out of it because the Bengals are in a different time frame. They're starting Joe Burrow because they need that chemistry to keep building. They have some pieces that they need to get going in, and quite frankly, they weren't a playoff team last year. So they are looking at it like taking it as they're going to be the champs, right? And if they can't perform against most of these Eagles second teamers, it'll showcase 2 things. One, the Eagle defense is going to be better than we think, right? Because if the second teamers can hold the Bengals first team offense to a couple 3 and outs, you got to like that. And then the other thing is will, obviously for the Bengals, it's not necessarily the same. They're trying to gear up for it. They didn't win the Super Bowl. Again, like I said, that short off season affords the Eagles to rest their players. Joe Burrow's been off. He's had, countless times to be off. So he needs the work. I think it's a good test for the Eagles to get the starters, especially guys like Azeez Ojulari, Jahad Campbell, some of the guys that may not be the quote-unquote starters right now, but will be contributors down the road. It's good to get them some action against a live bullets, against Jamar Chase and this offense. Now, will everybody play? Who knows? Who knows what the pitch count will be? The offense probably is going to be very vanilla, but it's going to be good to see.
Yeah, like you said, that's like really what it's all about. That's the one thing, the great thing about preseason. The one great thing about preseason is seeing how the young guys acclimate, especially the rookies in particular, acclimate to, like you said, the NFL speed, the true speed of the game. It's one thing at practice is one thing, but when you're out there against another team, it's a whole different thing, a whole different ball game, man. So just get to see these young guys try to translate their game to the NFL level, man, and see what some of them got. And sometimes stars are born in preseason. As Giant fans, we know that. A la Victor Cruz, man. Sometimes you get those gems, man. You find those hidden gems, man. Sometimes, so we will see, man. But any final thoughts on the Eagles, and before we move on to Washington.
I don't really have many. We talked about all the stuff that they've got going on.
Yeah, I agree. So let's Washington's Friday night. They got a game. They play Friday night. They've been in joint practices this week with the New England Patriots, their opponents on Friday. Washington's been they've been trying to figure some things out. The Terry McLaurin thing is still hanging over their head right now, and they're still trying to deal with that. Terry McLaurin apparently trying to ask for DK Metcalf like money. I can't remember exactly what his contract was all about, but that's the kind of the range he's trying to get paid, kind of in that similar range, man. But otherwise been business as usual in Washington camp, man. What's your thoughts on Washington this week, Adam?
Well, obviously Terry McLaurin is stealing the headline, so to speak, with this holdout. But again, it's a no-brainer what they should do, but they're not doing it because they're idiots. But again, he wasn't going to play this game, so it doesn't really matter what for them for that. He wasn't going to play either way. But it is interesting to see. They're probably getting a lot of their work done. I'm hearing that Zach Ertz is getting a lot of targets, as he should. Deebo Samuel's probably getting some targets, as he should right now. And the Commanders, it's interesting because they are a team that's on the rise, but kind of in flux. Their defense is not fully ready yet. They're, got guys that are good, in like the backup and the Marcus Lattimore, the nickel corner, Bobby Wagner, Luvu. They have some talent over there, but they're not fully built now. Their mission is different. Their mission is not going to creep up on people. All right, their job is to stay healthy, have a healthy offensive line because they want to beat the Giants week 1. That's what they're looking to do. And they get this joint practice against a New England team who's, kind of coming getting their sea legs about them with Mike Vrabel. It's going to be good. And again, I'm not seeing anything. I'm looking to see Marcus Mariota kind of play this game. You don't need Jaden Daniels in there. I would sit Brian Robinson. I would let Austin Eckler play.
I think right now, Jaden Daniels. They've already said Jaden Daniels is not playing on Friday. They've already announced that.
But I get that he might need the reps, but it's interesting because Cincinnati's going to play Joe Burrow, but JD5 is not playing. So I get why he wouldn't do it. Yeah. And with this team, they don't have anything else behind them. Joe Burrow's a little different, I guess. I don't know why they're playing Joe Burrow, to be honest, but we'll see. But JD5 needs the reps, but I guess he'll get some other reps. We'll see Marcus Mariota. And that's about it, man. I'm not really worried about this team. I think the McLaurin thing will get done. I believe it in my heart that by the week we get to game week or a little before that, it'll get done. And the Commanders have to do what every other team has done. Get out of this with your guys relatively healthy, okay? Because again, they open up with the Giants, and they're looking at that. They're looking at that game as a way to keep pace with the team we just talked about, the Eagles. Okay, they went toe to toe with them in the regular season. Of course, they got blown out in the playoffs, but they're looking for redemption. And so what they're trying to do is they're going to try to keep building off their momentum, but they need a lot of their young guys to step up. And we'll get to see some Trey Amos. Hope he gets some burn. Obviously, if he's playing well, you're going to want to pull him. You know, I want to see some of their backup players, some of their depth at receiver, you know, what they got there. You know, Luke McCaffrey and a few others on the depth chart. Obviously, Terry McLaurin is not going to play. But, again, I need to see who's behind McLaurin because you can't just rely on Zach Ertz to be a third receiver. Remember, these people had Terry McLaurin, a rookie Luke McCaffrey, and Noah Brown as like their starting receivers. So they really need to find out who's going to be filling out that depth chart as well past the top two guys, right? And I think a Luke McCaffrey, you know, being there, that might help him develop. They also have a Ben Sinnott in their tight end room who I'm looking to see get more playing time. So they've got some guys on offense who I like to see that they don't need to see some of these other guys, right? Because the joint practice will probably be suffice enough to get kind of a gauge on where Jaden Daniels is in the offense. So
I agree. But Marcus Mariota, actually, from what I'm looking at reports that I'm reading, he may not be playing Friday either. He's dealing with some kind of lower leg injury too right now. Nothing major. The coach Quinn is saying, so he may only be getting for the Commanders on Friday. You maybe only be getting Josh Johnson and Sam Hartman out there on Friday for the Commanders, which first preseason game. Not.
Wait, you're not lining up to watch those two?
I mean, I'm just saying. Like I said, I'm going to assume without Jaden Daniels out there, you're not going to see much of the other regular starters as well. Listen, I mean, you would like to see what Debo looked like and, you know, how Debo was looking in that offense. But right now, I'm pretty sure we won't see him until next week as well. I'm pretty sure they're going to hold – like it's like pretty much like the Eagles. They're going to be pretty much look like they'll be holding out pretty much all of their starters as well.
Josh Johnson, he's been in the league for God knows how long. If he can't –
he's played for so many teams.
If he cannot beat some second teamers, and I don't even know how he has a job now. I mean, the guy is damn near 40. If he gets cut, he's going to probably go to the UFL to some team and play over there. I mean, I'm rooting for him on Friday. Sam Hartman, good, nice hair, bro. Get out the league. Go be an announcer, right? Josh Johnson, I want to see you play just because you have a legacy of being bounced around the league and still somehow being good enough to be in the NFL, but not good enough to ever really stick. And I remember that game where he was the Jets quarterback and threw for damn near like 500 yards. So I'm looking forward to at least watching him.
Yeah, Gregory. I just want to say a couple guys popped in the chat earlier too, a little while ago. Mosley and Wells, appreciate y'all popping in, man. Appreciate you, good brothers, man. But
stopping by.
But Gregory here also brought up another point with Jaden Daniels. Says Jaden Daniels, the Commanders don't seem to get the sophomore slump is a real thing. Last year, nobody had Jaden Daniels on film or whatever. So that's true. But sometimes some guys are just so damn talented that they can overcome those things. And everything I'm hearing out of Commander camp, obviously I'm not. I mean, all I can do is read reports and whatnot. But Jaden Daniels has really been taking another step forward, honestly, from his development from even a year ago. They said he's at this time last year, he's miles and miles ahead of where he was this time last year, which would only make sense, obviously. But it's just the point that they're saying he's progressing well. It doesn't look like he's resting on just, you know, his accolades from a season ago. He is truly progressing and trying to become even better at his craft. So hearing great things out of Jaden Daniels and the leader that he is. I mean, right now, dealing without his number one guy, hasn't been able to work with his number one guy at all through training camp thus far, and just building a rapport with all the other receivers that they have and the other playmakers. So still hearing great things about Jaden Daniels, man. But I'm going to be more curious on Friday, if anything, about Washington, because I feel like this team offensively they're pretty solid. I mean, yeah, sure, I think they're pretty solid offensively. So I'm really going to be looking more forward to seeing what some of these guys on defense are going to bring to the table. Like some of these young guys, they maybe like you said, you brought up Trey Amos earlier. Let's see what some of these young guys can do, man. I don't think we're going to see too much of the veteran guys like, the Bobby Wagners, the Von Millers. We're not going to probably see much of them in preseason at all. But just, kind of just see what some of these guys can do, man. And if they're ready to step up and take that next step for the Washington Commanders. So I feel like defensively is where they really have to prove that they're ready to answer the bell, man.
Well, come on. Why is it not working?
You're good. I can hear you. What's wrong? Adam must be having some technical difficulties, I guess. You there? You good?
Nope, I'm not good. Oh, there I am. So my point is their defense is a bend but don't break defense. So I just need to see their depth players come in. Because remember, we talked about Lattimore, I talked about Centellis, right? Agent Zero, as I call him. We have Trey Amos. After that, it's a hodgepodge of guys that they've brought in. And again, they don't have a collective pass rusher. Like you can go down the Eagles and say Jalen Carter is their pass rusher, right? You go to the Giants, they have Abdul Carter, Kayvon, and Brian Burns. They don't have that in Washington. Even in Dallas, they've got Micah Parsons and Sam Williams and a few other guys. The Washington Commanders don't have a legit, this guy is your bona fide pass rusher. They have a collective group of guys. Between Deron Payne, they have the guy Kinlaw that's going to be out there. Then they have Dorrance Armstrong and a few other people on their team that is hopefully enough and generates enough of a pass rush to kind of affect the game so those DBs can actually take over, right? I think they're what they're lacking right now, and I think it's too early to forecast the draft, but the weaknesses I see on certain teams that I think some of these NFC East teams are going to draft, mine is like the Eagles are right now. I think the Washington Commanders might try to go for a safety because I think that's what's really missing in their secondary is a legit ball hawking safety. They have some decent players that know the system and can help, but there's not a lot of star power back there, right? And I think that's what could be their Achilles heel. Because they have the front seven they have competent enough front seven to do the job, right? Like with the guys we talked about. It's just about a matter of where the weaknesses lie. And this team isn't how should I put this? They aren't a pass rushing giant, but they do what they need to do. So I agree with you that their defense needs to show up a little bit. But what I think needs to happen mostly is that we need to just find out what their depth is across the board, because that's what's really going to keep them in it, because they have the lack of talent on the defense. Like I said, I don't think they have anybody with double-digit sacks on this team. So we'll see. And Dan Quinn's a mastermind. If there's anybody that can put together a defense, it's that man. That's why I kind of not worried about him. Like I said, they have Trey Amos. Their safeties are Will Butler, Will Harris. Will Harris not, anything crazy. He's been around the league. He's solid. Marshawn Lattimore. They have Quan Martin. Again, that guy, I think he used to play for Seattle back in the day. So, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that he was drafted by their team. So, he's okay, and they're developing. So we'll see. Again, they want to build from the back out. Their strength is their defensive secondary. That's what's going to be their strength.
Well, so it's interesting. The notes I was reading from their joint practice, I was reading some notes from joint practice with the Patriots, and they saying actually the run defenses actually came up big this week for the Commanders at joint practice. So they were pretty tough with the Patriots, not really allowing them too many run lanes, really bottling their run game up. They said they struggled a little bit with the pass defense a little bit. They said that was where the Patriots were excelling a little bit more against their defense. We're having a little more success against their defense, passing the football than running the football. But that's, in practice, joint practice things to work out. And like you said, I think they got a lot of good young talent back there in their secondary, and this team, I mean, you never, like I said, this is a team now that's a confident football team, a young football team, led by a great leader, like you said, Dan Quinn. Last
They
year
got
did a
Von
tremendous
Miller.
job with this football team. So I agree. But I just like I said, you got to find the things and try to pick things, try to pick things apart. And right now, like that's really to me, the biggest, question mark about this team is just on the defensive side of the football is where their biggest question marks lie. But
Well,
no, really. Go ahead.
if they can get Luvu and Miller and a couple of these other guys to kind of you know get some sacks, it'll help them out. If they can stop the run, they'll figure out how to stop the pass. Like if you're at 3rd and 8, right? It's easier to bring a blitz and stuff. So we don't know exactly when it's practice. We don't know unless we read the details. We don't know exactly how the defense won. Maybe they won. Maybe it's practice. So Dan Quinn's like, just keep everything in front of you. We don't know what was being taught. So until we see it on the game, we can just take it as, Drake May had some good moments, and he had some not so good moments. But the one thing that makes the defense even better is a good offense. So if they can get points on the board, it's going to change how they'll be defended, right? Because now teams are going to be in chase mode, and they're going to have to force things and try to get back because, God forbid, there's a turnover with the defense and the Jaden Daniels goes down and scores again. Now you're in catch-up mode. So, really, I think they're going to lean heavily on their offense. And if they can do some things with their offense and move the ball and score, their defense will be a complement where they just need to just bend but don't break. That's all.
I agree. And by them having a joint practices all week, there's really not much going to be much to see probably in this game. I don't think either team is going to be probably putting their starters out in this one. I mean, they practice against each other all week. So this is going to be definitely just the young players, the backups, and the young players at the bottom of the depth chart out there getting an opportunity on Friday evening in this ball game. So, you got any final thoughts on the Washington Commanders?
No.
All right, then to Oxnard we go. Oxnard for the Dallas Cowboys, and they make it up all week and joint practice. Man, they'll be taking on the Rams. I guess on Saturday evening. From what I'm hearing in camp is the offensive line had a rough week for the Dallas Cowboys, man, against dealing with the Rams. Front seven, man. I've heard they've been struggling in it. A lot of that's due to the injuries. That's why they probably brought in Lyle Collins, man. Any news you're hearing from Dallas camp?
They're playing the Rams, so the Rams are a good team. So for that team to get beat down by, that team is not necessarily bad. And like you said, there's injuries, there's makeshift guys playing. So, while on the other hand, the Rams don't have the injuries on the D line. So if your number ones are going up against the Cowboys number ones, and the number ones happen to be number 2s and 3s, it's going to look different than a normal game. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think I'll give a little credit to the Rams. They're a good team. They're a team that is, trying to, their goal destination, the Super Bowl. That's what they're trying to do. So, you really want to see how that goes right there. Now, do you want to see a better showing from the Cowboys? Yes, of course you do. You obviously want that, but they know what they can do and what their limitations are. And again, it's a joint practice. You're just trying to get a different body out there, a different face out there, a different way of looking. And we'll see what happens. And like I said, their defense is really what you're looking at, and we'll see how they're doing as we go forward. But I'm not taking too much out of this because of the makeshift offensive line that's there. They got 2 starters. They got the rookie. They also brought in, like I said, Lyle Collins. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. Plus, that defensive line for that Rams team is fire.
Absolutely. They said Verse was just just lighting the Cowboys O line up. But Verse was, I mean, that's a tremendous talent from a season ago. So it's
Not to
not like
mention the young
it's
guy.
not.
Who's the other
Yeah,
guy?
no shame. No, it's like no real shame in that, considering he's, like you said, going up and dealing with a beat up offensive line right now for the Dallas Cowboys right now. Like I said, bringing in, like I said, Lyle Collins, a guy that's now is, I believe, his third time with the Cowboys, third different time with the Cowboys now. I don't know what kind of impact they expect him to maybe come in and have. He's looking to maybe try to get his career back on track. I haven't heard much about him in the last couple of years, to be honest. But I
Well, he
don't
was
know if that
injured, and
can.
I think went with Buffalo last year and their practice squad, and now he's back with the Cowboys. The only thing I'll say about this is that he has some familiarity with the offense. He was there in 2020, 2021 when Mike McCarthy was there. So, and I do believe Schottenheimer was with McCarthy for a while. So he does have some type of offense there. They had Kellen Moore as well. So it's not like going to be unfamiliar territory with him. If he's starting, then that shows you that the Cowboys have a little bit of an issue. Other than that, he's there for depth piece, and I think he'll fit in really well as he gets acclimated back to playing football, because I think you can do a lot of things with him when you get your guys healthy right now. And who knows, maybe there's a little more magic in those legs, and he ends up being a steal for them, right? Sometimes you go to a place and it just doesn't work out. Then you come back home when you got the home cooked meals, you got the familiarity of where you're going. It's not, you don't have to think anymore. Dak Prescott is there. You know how he works and how he rolls. Sometimes that helps you. So he has a chance to make the team, obviously, with the injuries to Robert Jones and then Tyler Guyton. He has a chance to make the team. So, make the best of it. And I think they're desperate, but we'll see what happens. The Cowboys are interesting because they have this happen to them every year. They start out where you're talking to them and you're like, oh man, the Cowboys. And then they'll have this guy get injured. They have just enough depth to be an average football team, but not enough depth to remain a championship level team. So that's why they end up 7-10. Right? They lose their quarterback last year, and they don't have a great backup. They have a guy who's just good enough, so they end up 7-10. Right? Their defense isn't great, but they beat up on bad teams. Can't catch a break against good teams, so they're just good enough. And then guys go down, and they're kind of putting things together. And because a lot of these young players they have now are going to be in the second year, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with number 35. I forgot how to pronounce his name, but he was a linebacker that came in last year. They had Overshone, who I like. They have Sam Williams coming back. So we'll see what they can do on this defense. But if they can get some depth and they don't have to rely on their starters, that'll help them out a lot. Obviously, the defense is missing a key part, and that is Micah Parsons. Again, I don't believe he's going anywhere. I think Jerry Jones knows he's not going anywhere. But this is just what you do in these situations. He's still at camp. He's still there talking with the team. So I think all this thing that you're seeing in the media is all theater by the agents and by, the back channels to keep the flames going. Micah Parsons is going to be traded. Oh, there's teams interested. Oh, you need the media buzz to talk about it, to surround it, to try to get some of these things done. Meanwhile, he's in the building. All right, Mac, we know about holdouts. Okay, we've seen them. We grew up with holdouts. These kids nowadays think these holdouts are a big deal. We got guys literally holding out for the into the season and wanting to get paid. Most of the time, it works out for them. And I think for the Cowboys, it's going to work out. And I want to see what they do because they're pretty fired up, right? They're pretty fired up, and they have a big opponent that they're playing on opening weekend, and that's the Eagles. So I think they're trying to, I think their practice is different. Some people practice on a different level. What I mean by that, the Rams practice on a championship level. The Cowboys are practicing on trying to get adjustments to the new coach, where some of these players are going to fit in, and trying to get the talent to kind of buy in and go forward, while as the Rams have a coach that's already in the building. It's been there a while. They have Jimmy Garoppolo. They brought in Devontae Adams. They just signed their running back. They're trying to go to the championship, right? Meanwhile, the Cowboys are still trying trying to find their way. So I think that's why you see a lot of these things happening. Again, practice. I'm not taking too much out of it because these teams can practice like this, and what happens if the Rams fall on their face when they come out the gate and the Cowboys turn out to be like a Super Bowl team? Like what, somebody said it best today. Nobody's going to remember practice on August 6th. Nobody's going to care about that. They're going to care about what you do in the regular season.
All right about that. But speaking of practice though, while they've been practicing, I mean, we talked about, like I said, the offensive line having some struggles, but a couple guys who have not been struggling, apparently, that's been out there cooking a little bit out there in Cowboy camp, man. This receiving core is going to be a force to be reckoned with. It looks like CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, man. They said they have had a great week of practice out there against the Rams, man. And throwing Kevontae Turpin in the mix as well, he's starting to get some serious reps, starting to get some serious burn as well. The speedster, Kevontae Turpin, man. Think about these Cowboy receivers, man.
This team is underrated in terms of that. They have talent. People forget about Dak Prescott and how good he is. And when he has talent, he's really good. And let me put it this way. Dak Prescott gets injured. The next year he has a big season. They finally have a number 2 receiver that's legit, right? People want to talk about, the Steelers got rid of him, so he's probably bad. Yeah, they got rid of him in his prime because they don't want to pay him because they just traded for a guy who's a little further ahead in the receiving column and wasn't kind of a powder, and that was G.J. Metcalf. You telling me that if this guy goes out and performs, the Cowboys aren't going to be able to sign him? Imagine CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens for the next 5 years. Imagine that. They're already killing the Rams secondary. They just need to hold up just enough, right? If the Cowboys can get just enough of a run game where I have to think about it, I have to go, oh, crap. Miles Sanders might break one here. I have to kind of hesitate a little bit. He's not great, but I have to hesitate a little bit because they just ran for 5 yards. And you can get Pickens behind him, Ferguson behind him. I mean, you have Ferguson, you have Pickens. You just named Devontae Turpin, who's a speedster, okay? And I'm sure there's going to be another guy that emerges. The Cowboy offense could be really, really potent offense. And what did I tell you? I told you they're not going to have a hiccup because they understand Brian Schottenheimer's already been here. The only difference now is instead of being the offensive coordinator, he's now the head coach. So what you want to look for as a Cowboy fan is how he's going to call the plays. What are situational decisions that he's going to make with this team that are going to affect them, whether it's going for a 4th down, not going for, challenging, not challenging, how aggressive he's going to be. Because I think those elements of the coaches is really what a head coach needs, the strategy of the game. We know that he's going to know offense. We know their offense doesn't have to do much because they already have a guy who knows the offense in Dak Prescott. So if they can build a line that can hold up a little bit, I expect this Cowboy team to put up some points. Last year, according to NFL.com, they had 20 points a game they scored. I expect them to be at least 23 points or more average this season if they stay healthy. I think they're going to, against some teams that are not like, let's say, not the Eagles. I don't know if they're going to come out and score 23, but maybe against the Giants, they might score 23. Maybe against a lesser team that doesn't have the horses to keep up with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, they're going to score 23. But again, it depends on the offensive line. We'll find out more come September and as guys get healthy, but they could be a scary group.
I totally agree, man, with this Dallas Cowboy team. Also, like I said, once again, this week, with them practicing with the Rams all week, once again, you're not expecting much in the game on Saturday. They're not going to, obviously not, damn well you're not going to see any Dak Prescott. I would like to see the running backs a little bit, get a little bit of work. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, maybe they get a little bit of work, but I really don't know how much. The offensive line is pretty banged up, but they still probably could use trying to figure some things out because right now the Tyler Guyton injury, you still don't really know for sure how long he's going to be out exactly. So I feel like they need to get some work up front there on the O-line, but otherwise, this Dallas Cowboy team, like you said, offensively locked and loaded, man. I think you're right. I think people aren't giving them enough credit, like you said, about what they have in that receiver room. I think they have some explosive guys out there on the outside, And I think Dak Prescott, he knows how to unlock that kind of talent, man. So it's going to be something interesting to see.
I do want to see Joe Milton in their game to see how he takes to the offense.
Well, the thing with Joe Milton is he got banged up in practice, I think, yesterday a little bit. Something with his hand, nothing too serious, but like I think it was his thumb or something. They said he banged on somebody's helmet or something like that. So I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to if we're gonna get him on in the game this week or not. Which they only have 3 quarterbacks on the rosters, so I don't know. Maybe Will Greer will be playing the whole game on Saturday, whoever that even is.
Will Greer was a quarterback that played for West Virginia. Came out in the Daniel Jones draft. So he's got some history.
He was part of that great quarterback class.
Yes,
huh?
he was the part of the greatest quarterback class ever seen in 2019 with that guy, and he was a little older. So whatever. Will Greer, I can't believe he lasted this long in the league, but it's a chance to showcase yourself, and we'll see what's happening, man. And again, I don't take anything with I take everything with a grain of salt, because you look at what the Chargers did against Detroit in game 1. Do I think Detroit's still bad? No. Do I think Kyle Allen is horrible? Yes. Do I think the Chargers are going to be good? Yes. But but a preseason game can't dictate a lot of stuff. And especially as a Giant fan, I understand all too well about how preseason is a very inflated thing, right? But that's all I got. I do have some issues for the next team that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick in the chat, man. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets. My guy popping in here, man. Appreciate you, my brother, as always, each and every week. And Cold Cowboys, here you go, football season. I got my guy back around, Cold Cowboys, man. Getting ready for this season. What y'all Cowboys gonna do, man? What y'all got for him out there, Cole, man?
Oh, Cole's gonna be like fucking Super Bowl. He knows he's a coach away, a good coach away from being a Super Bowl champion.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing good things about Schottenheimer, man. They seem to be loving Schottenheimer down there in Cowboy camp, man. So we'll see how that translates, man. We'll see how that translates. I mean, the Cowboys always got a way of cowboying it up, though, man. So we'll see what happens with them, man. But they are no, you can't deny the talent they have on that roster. They definitely are talented. It's a pretty talented roster, and overall, man, let's see if they can, not underachieve this season. They can stay healthy. I think they could surprise some people this year, man. Honestly, people could be sleeping on them a little bit. I think they're kind of. It's hard to say the Cowboys are a forgotten team, but I think some people are kind of forgetting that this is still a pretty solid football team. And Dak Prescott, whereas he may not be necessarily a top 10 guy anymore, he's still a very more than capable quarterback, man. He's still right outside that top 10 area, for what it's worth when healthy. He's still definitely right up in that range. He's not quite within the top 10 anymore, but he's definitely still right there on the edge. Out. You say what?
Who, Dak Prescott?
Yeah, Dak Prescott.
Oh, he's going to be in the top 10 passing. You'll see. He's going to be throwing for 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns this year. Put my money on that shit.
I mean, that could be a good point, Jack Straw. That could be a good point, because they do seem to always implode when they get to the postseason. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. The Cowboys team is interesting. They're one of the more interesting stories coming into this season, I feel like. But let's get to the Giants, Adam. Let's talk a little bit of New York Giant football, man. Because Saturday, it finally begins, man. Hopefully, it's the start of a new beginning on Saturday for the New York Giants. We hope so, man. What you hearing out of Giant camp, Adam?
Well, what I'm hearing out of Giant camp is Russell Wilson looks average. Jackson Dart has his ups and downs. We have too many fucking procedural penalties, which is a little pissing me off, because that's lack of focus, and you're in the start of August, and I know that training camp is, only like 10 days old, but it seems to be happening on a regular basis with this team. And the one thing, there's a few things that can derail this team. One, Malik Neighbors not being in there. They can't run this offense without Malik Neighbors. I told you people they needed a second receiver. I'm going to tell you this right now. By the end of the year, you guys are going to see that they're going to be drafting receiver high in the draft next season, because they're not going to have the same dynamic receivers that are going to be across on the other side, especially if Slayton, who's banged up, and Neighbors, who's going to be in and out of lineups because he's going to get banged up. It's going to happen probably. He has a bad toe that he's fighting through, but bad toes don't get easier when you're constantly cutting and planning on them, and somebody may step on you, and you already left practice a little early and you already got banged up his shoulder, right? So for me, the Giants, while I have expectations for them, I don't have much expectations, but they still seem sloppy in certain aspects of the game, right? The quarterbacks are still turning the ball over. The procedural penalties are getting, today apparently Brian Dable had to yell at them at the end of practice for procedural penalties. That have been reported on since day one, and they have officials there. I'm looking at teams across the league, and I'm hearing how teams are not getting as many procedure calls as this team would, and it's like, I need the Giants to be a little sharper than this. I need them to be the Eagles and or the Commanders. I need you to look precision. I need you not to be, looking like a team that's rebuilding. And they are a team that's rebuilding. And that's what we were forgetting about, right? People are anointing them. Oh, they're going to win this. They're going to win that. The team won 3 games last year. 3 fucking games last year. And now we have to put it all together, Dart only 2 INTs. I mean, Wilson had INTs as well. I mean, we're talking about practice. The reason why I don't take practice as serious as most, because if you've been at practice, which I have and Mac has, you know that there's people that on your practice team that know the plays already, that understand personnel, that understand Mac may be weak here, or may not be there, or maybe Mac is not taking it as hard because it's practice. I don't want to get injured. Then the game time comes and Mac's a beast, and the guy that was beasting Mac is nowhere to be found, right? So I can't just blame Jackson Dart on everything. He's learning. The guy that pisses me off is Wilson having some struggles, and if you can't function without Malik Neighbors in the game, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And it's not like our defense is suffocating them. They can't stop the run. They're giving up pass after pass. I mean, the guys are doing pretty well in Deontay Banks. Maybe he is coming around. Okay.
Well, he got one. He got the interception on Russ today. Was Tay Banks?
Right. So we'll see.
Russ today.
We'll see if this is one or two things. One, the Giants are really bad, and they're struggling against their own team. Or 2, the defense is good, and we need to start respecting how good they are. And our offense is just not where we think it is, because you can't have, like I said, you can't have procedural penalties. You can't have all this stuff go wrong, because it's going to negate gains like throwing that deep pass to Theo Johnson. It's going to negate that, right? And the depth chart just came out. I know a lot of people are talking about that. So let's mention it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I was going to say, well, like, I think what you said about the defense is, I think it is. I think honestly it's because the defense is really just pretty damn good. I think I look back at Jackson Dart's interception today in practice. It was more or less a spectacular. I mean, it wasn't a bad throw. It was more or less a spectacular play by the defender. I believe it was
Nick Jones. I think
Nick Jones. Just a diving, lay it out there, diving. I mean, the receiver was Montrell. Was the guy from Kansas City, Montrell Washington. He just kind of laid out there. I mean, Nick Jones just laid out there and made a spectacular play. It wasn't like Jackson Dart threw some horrible pass, like little, duck across the middle of the field or something. So just got to keep that in mind as well. The defense, I think, is really that good. As far as the procedural penalties, that does piss me the fuck off, Adam, and I'm going to tell you why. Because like you said, that's in your head. That's in your head. That's all about discipline. And to me, at this level, there's no excuse for that. James Hudson left practice early. He's been one of the main culprits, picking up a lot of those. And I get the pressure's on. You got some good edge rushers out there. You got Burns, Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. I get it, all of that. But you gotta clean that kind of stuff up, man. You
Well, it's
can't
on both
allow
sides. It's on
you
both
can't
sides.
continue. Yeah, you can't continue to just be doing that constantly over and over again, making those same kind of mistakes. So that is something that to keep an eye on with this football team, because that is unacceptable. Those are drive killers. You know what I mean? You can go from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and 6 just like that because you got an unnecessary false start.
I'm laughing because all I hear is Tom Coughlin in that clip. We lost the game due to illegal procedure. You know what I mean? And I'm just I'm just thinking like, these are the type of things that cost bad teams a football game, because you're there, and you're sitting there and you're down a distance and you're getting offsides with Carter. Granted, that's fine, but you play some good defenses. You play Von Miller, okay? I'm not saying he's a Von Miller in his prime, but if he's coming up to the line, are you gonna shit your pants and move off sides because he just beat you the play before? Like, that will cost you football games. The Giants last year didn't get many turnovers, right? They turned the ball over, but they also had a lot of penalties. They were in 3rd and long and 3rd and whatever. They'd get a good play, and then someone would hold or someone would jump off sides. And the reason it's pissing me off right now, Mac, is that we're in year 3 or we're in year 4 of this regime. Year 4. Guys have been in this regime years already. And we're still jumping off sides?
I mean, true, and I mean, it's just like I said, that's a discipline thing, and it's something that they definitely have to clean that up before the season starts. I don't even really want to see it in the preseason, to be quite frank. They need to get that cleaned up. That's to me that those are the kind of things that are unacceptable, and that's what bad football teams do. And right now, that's why we're a bad football team, because of things like that. I mean, those are the reasons why we're a bad football team. Things like that. It's just got to get it right, man. But you want to talk about the depth chart a little bit? That you were going to bring up the depth chart?
Yeah, I mean, the depth chart is interesting because, a lot of guys are injured, right? So even though there is a depth chart, we have no wide receivers. I mean, Darius Slayton's out. Bo Collins, who I hope was going to make the team, is out. So while there's a depth chart, what is intriguing to me is when we read the practice reports, Jackson Dart's not number 3. He's number 2. But now all of a sudden he's number 3. And I was listening to Pro Football Talk, and they were like, well, they're kind of trying to make him earn it. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, who are you hiding this from? Who are you to try to pretend that this guy is not going to be the second quarterback on your team? Like, if Jackson Dart is not number 2, then we have bigger problems, okay? I don't care how good Jameis Winston's playing. That's irrelevant to me. If you don't believe that Jackson Dart's going to be your number 2 quarterback, then what are we doing? Okay, I understand you're doing a respect thing for Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston knew when he came in here and got drafted that he was going to be the 3. Okay, that's what he was going to be. He's going to be number 3. So why am I worried about the depth chart? Well, you could say they're giving the message, oh, well, he has to earn it, and we're giving respect to Jameis. Jameis knows. You traded up to get Jackson Dart in the first round. You have the Browns already saying they're starting Shedeur Sanders for their game, right? We don't know, being that they're number 3, if you're going to start Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart should be starting this game. I don't want to see Jameis Winston. It should be Jackson Dart and Tommy DeVito the entire way.
Well, let's pause for a second. Let's talk about that for a while, because I was thinking about that, because obviously Brian Dable doesn't really talk about anything. He doesn't just put anything out there. But the breakdown on this game, I feel like we're not going to see Russ at all on Saturday at all. I feel like you're going to. I think James Winston will start, maybe play a few series, 2 or 3 series, maybe. This is my guesstimation to how the breakdown is going to go. And then maybe Jackson Dart gets the rest of the first half. I would hope, ideally, gets the rest of the first half at least. And then you probably see Tommy DeVito pretty much the entire second half, I would think. That's how I feel like it would probably get broken down. Because you don't, like you said, you don't necessarily need to see a whole lot of Jameis Winston, obviously. James Winston is what James Winston is. I mean, we know that he hasn't played for the Giants, obviously, but you know what James Winston is. You don't need to see a big heavy dose of James Winston in the first preseason game when you got a young quarterback that needs the reps. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking we're going to see Jackson Dart from the majority of the first half, but I guess Winston probably will actually get out there and start the game for whatever that's worth. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
You may only want him to just for the system. I mean, he already knows the system apparently in Buffalo because it's very similar to Philip Dorsey that was there, or Ken Dorsey that was there, and so with Cleveland, so he knows the system. I agree with you. He should start, but to me, the guy has been in the league for a decade. What possibly do I need to see out of that guy, right? James Winston came in last year, got no reps with the Browns really because it was Deshaun Watson and everybody else, right? And then Deshaun Watson goes down and bang, he's in there and doesn't miss a beat, right? And with the way the Giants did the quarterbacks last year with Drew Lock and all this dumb shit that they were doing where they didn't give guys reps and they threw him in there, the kid needs the reps. I don't care about James Winston. I like him as a guy. I think he's a great leader in the room. He's not the future. You didn't draft him. I'm almost happy. I'm happy and sad that the Giants drafted a quarterback because I'm happy because they drafted one in the first round, but I'd rather have had them draft one in the sixth round if you're not going to see this guy play, right? If you're going to get a guy to quote unquote develop. I don't have time to quote unquote develop a guy. I spent a high draft pick and put draft capital into this man. I need to see him. He needs to be number 2. So I think you give James Winston a series of 2, maybe a drive, maybe 2 drives, and you say, get out the game. I need to see this kid the rest of the way because you need to see him on down and distance, how he processes the offense, what is he seeing. The more reps he's going to get, the better because when the regular season starts, probably 2 quarters for Dart. I would play him 2 quarters. I'd play him the bottom of the first half, like the bottom of the first quarter, and definitely all of the second quarter, and possibly into the third. Why? Because I would want to see how he comes out in the second half as well. These things you need to practice. You need to get the reps. He's not going to have that in the regular season. Their plan right now is not that. Maybe he does. Secretly, they give him the reps, but this kid needs that. He's a first-round pick. The Giants' season may not go as according to their plans, so you're going to need to really see why he does. Why is it a preseason game, a quarter, too much exposure for a guy that is not going to play in the regular season? What are we talking about? I'm sorry. This kid's a young player. We can't play kid gloves on him. You want to take the gloves off for Carter? That's fine. Because he's a defense. He's a number 3 overall pick. You think he's going to be a stud? Fine. But he's not as important as Jackson Dart because you already have Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. And those guys are going to be here, or at least one of them. Russell Wilson is not going to be here long term. And his job is not – I'm not worried about Russell Wilson. I'm not worried about James Winston. I'm worried about Jackson Dart. I need to see that guy, how he develops. How he – risk of injury. Okay, so there's a risk of injury all the time. See, here's the thing. You might as well not play him at all then, no Mets, because – if you're going to be worried about risk of injury, then I can't play any of these guys. And this kid needs reps in the system that he apparently is number 3 for. So if he's going to be number 3 in your depth chart and you don't think he's good enough to be number 2, he's not going to get any reps. So I need to see him and how he processes it. The rest of the stuff. Daniel Jones played all the preseason games when he was a rookie. He played them all, and he played a lot, even though we had Eli Manning. He played a ton. Are we worried about risk of injury then? No. You just got to see what he can do. You can get injured. There's guys getting injured in opening day. There are guys getting injured in practice. It's a violent game. So to tell me, oh, well, I don't want to give him exposure. Well, isn't that doing your kid a disservice? Because you're taking away reps from him when he should be getting more reps?
Well, let me touch on that real quick, because I feel right where you're coming from, because I think given the circumstance of the way this roster is built right now, the fact that he has 2 veterans, quote unquote, technically in front of him, the preseason is his time right now. It's really much going to be his only time because right now it looks like potentially going into the year you got Russ Wilson number one. Obviously, that's been announced, clear cut number one quarterback, and then and then Winston right now may be the backup at least for the first month or so of the season, regardless or whatever. You know what I mean? However they play it out. So Jackson Dart, once we get to the regular season, Jackson Dart will not be getting probably many practice reps, so to speak. So right now you got to see what he's got in the preseason so you can just have any idea whether this guy can do it, man. You just have to know. And say he plays, because I think we're gonna see him the majority of the first half on Saturday. I feel like Winston probably will only play a couple of series and then Jackson Dart the rest of the way throughout at least the first half. Say he struggles a bit, I would then want to kind of see how he responds after halftime, come back out and maybe get even another series or two in the third quarter, because you just got to know. You can't evaluate if he's not playing. You have to see him on the field to know what you got, man. And right now, this is going to be his best opportunity for right now, at least at this juncture, to show what he's got is out there in the preseason reps. So I see where you're coming from, no Mets, but I think given the circumstance of the way this team is constructed right now, and especially particularly the quarterback room, right now the preseason is Jackson Dart's only time to get some like really legitimate reps, get them live bullets, so to speak.
Let me ask this question: what's the point of seeing Tommy DeVito? Like, what? Why do I need to see him? Like, so if I'm taking reps away and I'm only playing Winston a few series and Dart, I don't want to see. I want to put kid gloves on him. So now I got to see Tommy DeVito for what? I don't know what he is. I need the guy that I invested a first round pick in to get as many targets at as many shots up as possible, so I have an evaluation on him. I understand what you're saying is four string. I get it, but then why across the NFL are they not going to do that? You think that a lot of these teams that have young quarterbacks aren't going to play them because of injury? That happens. You can't think like that. You have to think that this guy's going to come out clean. He's going to do what he's got to do, but I got to see him execute. Now, if Jackson Dart comes out and his first the two drives he's in, let's just say, and he's cooking, and you want to say, you know what, I've seen enough. Okay, but let his performance dictate you deciding leave him in the game or not. Don't he could be risk of injury. Then why even practice? Then he can get injured that way.
Well, we'll find out on Saturday. We'll get all the answers to these questions on Saturday, because right now none of us really have any real answers to this. But at the end, let's talk about a couple of the other rookies, man. Today, like I said, James Hudson went out and practiced early. Well, some kind of injury, something happened. I can't remember exactly what it was they said happened to him, but he couldn't finish practice. And Marcus Mbo ended up pretty much getting a lot of reps, man. And I've heard the young man, he held his own. Heard he did pretty well out there, man. What do you think about some of the other young guys coming into this first preseason game? I mean, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of Abdul Carter, obviously, because I think we kind of feel pretty comfortable with what we think he may be. So you probably won't get very much of him at all, if anything at all. He may really not even play at all. We'll see. We'll find out. But you think about like something like the Darius Alexanders, Marcus Mbo, even maybe a Thomas Fedoni. Man, he's way down deep on the tight end depth chart right now, but maybe he gets an opportunity and can maybe move up the depth chart a little bit. What do you think about some of the other young guys, Adam?
Well, the fact that we're hearing his name over Josh Azudu or any of these other guys kind of tells you where the offensive line depth is, right? They brought in Forsythe, and we're talking about a rookie. Okay, so we'll get back to your comment in a minute, Mets. But so then this comment that Mets is making, and this ties to my point. I don't need to see Dart right now. It'll be nice, but I understand not exposing him. Well, then why do I need to see Marcus Membo then? Right? Because if he's a 5th round pick and I think he's going to be on the team long term, why do I need to see him in the draft at that point? He could get injured. I need him on the team. If Dart's not going to start, right, and he's going to be a backup, where's he going to get his reps? I mean, we can have this argument all we want, but a young guy like Membo, it scares me because why is he getting talked about over Josh Azudu? Why is he getting talked about over Forsyth? Why is he getting talked about over some of the guys that you brought in who are supposed to be starters? You know, like I'm worried. Like if he does well, what do you do with Andrew Thomas, right? Because do you think about trading him at some point? Do you move him into a Luminor spot? Is he eventually going to be a Luminor spot, and you're going to take away? You know.
Look, just to address this right here, this comment coming in from Facebook from Michael Papanik Jr. I mean, look, I don't think that has anything to do with anything. I think it would take, like, Russell Wilson would have to look extremely poor in the preseason. I think Brian Daboll seems to be pretty emphatic about Russell Wilson as number one quarterback going into the season. I don't think it would take him to really, really struggle really, really bad. And Jackson Dart would have to look like exceptional.
Right.
So I mean, I don't think there's any real danger of any true controversy, in my opinion.
You know, I'm not thinking that they're not getting him a lot of reps. I just think it would be dumb not to. But no Mets has proved my point. I said, why is Membo more, getting more reps? And you're like, well, his value to the team is different than Jackson Dart's potential value to the team. Well, no, it's not, because right now they're both at the same juncture. They're both backup players, right? They're both young guys that need reps. We're not hoping that Marcus Membo is a starting right tackle. We're hoping that Jackson Dart can be the starting quarterback. So the fact is, I need to see a guy that's potentially going to start over a guy that needs reps. But guess what? They're both going to need reps because they're both third on the depth chart. So they both need time out there, because Membo is not going to get much time out there except for possibly special teams, if he gets a shirt on Sundays, right? It depends on how James Hudson does and how Forsyth does, because right now those guys could easily beat him out. So to me, it's not as different. It's not as different as you think it is, because they're both draft picks, and we're talking about young guys and the potential of seeing them. Marcus Membo goes out there and gets injured. Then what is the problem? Jackson Dart doesn't, but Membo does. It makes no sense. The other guys I'd like to see out there are, I want to see Nick Jones. Let's see if he can put together that camp, translate it to the field. That's one thing to do in a practice. It's another thing to do in a game. He's been having a good one. I'd love to see some of these young receivers. I want to see Dalen Cambridge, because he's been catching everything. And he's kind of an interesting story. You're not understanding my point. So we're going to move on, because we're not going to sit here and go in circles. So, why do I want to see Nick Johnson? Because he may not get burned during the regular season, so this is time to showcase. So I want to see a lot of these young guys to see what kind of depth pieces we have, so we can move on from guys like Josh Azudu. I don't think we have Marcus McKeithen, but guys like that. Aaron Stinney is still on this team. The fact that guys like Evan Neal are doing illegal procedures and getting pulled for Aaron Stinney gets on my – it just bothers me. And now Carl Banks is blowing up Evan Neal, which is bad. It's very bad. When an announcer is starting to blow up a player like Evan Neal, that means that guy is not doing well. I'm sorry. He's just not. Look at Daniel Jones. They blew him up all in the media. That guy was never good. Now we have them doing it again with it's not a bad point. You just don't want to agree with me, no Mets, because for some reason you think that seeing less of Jackson Dart is more beneficial, but seeing more of Marcus Membo is beneficial. Where I'm saying they're both young guys, they're both not going to get reps. So I guess we can agree to disagree. That's all right.
Well, let me address this question here from Michael. Cam Scatterboo, he's right now third on the depth chart and running backs. Probably I got to feel him. He'll move up to number 2. He's not going to look like he probably won't be playing Saturday, though, because he hasn't practiced at all this week, and I just can't imagine he'll be out there on Saturday, unfortunately. So we may have to wait till maybe next week to get the Cam Scatterboo debut. But
I don't know if we're going to see
my train of thought
for the rest of the preseason. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, according to According to what the coach, a little bit that he discloses, it's more precautionary than anything else. They don't think it's really anything. They don't think it's the hamstring is too serious. They just kind of being like taking precaution with it. Don't want him to. No point in a meaningless game against Buffalo to front to be aggravating it anymore, re-aggravating it, try to just get it, check it in the door, pretty much, kind of. You know what I mean? So hopefully that is what it is. I do want to see the young man. I would like to see him in the preseason at some point if we can. But at the end of the day, yeah, they're just kind of preserving him for right now.
Well, I mean, again, he's another guy that's not benefiting from not being out there, right? He needs to get the exposure. He's too busy being injured where he got the injury in practice. So now we won't know what we got in Cam Scatterboo. So now he's moving down the depth chart, and a guy like Devin Singletary is now moving up the depth chart because guess what? There's nobody back there, right? So Turbo Miller you're going to see, and Devin Singletary, and the other guy that they got off of waivers you're going to see. So the preseason is a chance to see young guys, and the young guys that we want to see are a little banged up, and it hurts their draft capabilities, right? So, it is what it is.
And yeah, I mean, like I said, Darius Alexander's been, it's been hearing, mixed things about the young man, third round pick Darius Alexander. I'm sure he'll get a opportunity on Saturday to maybe show what he's made of out there in the game against another team.
He shouldn't get too much. He shouldn't get too much playing time. Remember, we have Nunez Roches out there. We need to see him. So Darius Alexander's a third round pick. I don't know how much he's gonna want to play. So maybe we should hold him back a little bit because we need to see him during the regular season and stuff. Give me a break. Just put the young guys in. I'm sorry.
Well, a guy that I am curious, like I said, is a guy that I do like. I mean, he's like I said, he's deep down. He's buried on the depth chart for right now. But Thomas Fidone, man, the 7th round pick, man. I mean, if the kid can stay healthy, I think he does could potentially bring something to the table. He could be one of those guys that could take the preseason and really, grab the bull by the horns, man. I don't know if you have any thoughts on him. He's been pretty quiet thus far in camp.
Well, I like another guy that's in the tight end room. I like Greg Dulcich. I heard he's been having a solid camp. Fidone, to me, is a 7th round pick. So I'm not expecting much out of a 7th rounder. If he makes the team, great. If he doesn't make the team, he'll probably be on the practice squad, and he's more of a developmental guy for next year. But Bellinger's been doing okay. Dulcich's been doing good. Theo Johnson. So he's got a mountain to climb, especially with Chris Manhertz as well. Being there, he's probably going to be locked in as the blocking tight end. So, he's got I don't know. I hear you, Mac. I want to see him play, but I don't know if he's going to, without a stronger camp so far, I don't know if he's going to jump some of the guys I mentioned. And the guy I mentioned, like Greg Dulcich, I really want to see. He was a 3rd round pick. He has some rapport with Russell. He has some rapport with Winston. He's a guy that I feel like if you put Theo Johnson out there and Greg Dulcich, you can really have some nice weaponry out there to kind of help offset the lack of receiving depth that we have. As you see, the offense can't move without Malik Neighbors, so they're going to have to find other people. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. And the one thing I will say, though, that usually always happens is guys are going to get nicked up, banged up. Let's see how much depth we have. Because at the end of the day, I want to see the Giants making waiver wire trades, not to acquire players, but to get draft picks because their players are good and they can't fit them on the roster because they've been coached up well and they're good enough to play. I want to see more of that. And that's what I believe this team's headed in the right direction.
I think what you just hit a point right there, like a great point. I think this team has probably the best depth that I've seen them have in some time. I mean, I think we will have players legitimately when we get to those cut downs. We're going to have players that are going to garner interest from other teams around the league. And as you know, the last few years, that has not been the case. Pretty much the last few years, as you got cut by the Giants at the end of training camp, Your ass was bagging groceries next week somewhere. You just weren't you weren't in the league. Nobody else wanted you, and that's just what it was. I think this year we do it. And you brought up Greg Dulcich. He's one of those guys. I mean, the tight end room is pretty loaded right now, and Greg Dulcich is one of those guys right now that I can't imagine if he doesn't, if for whatever reason, if he doesn't make the roster, which right now it's uphill battle for him. He'll be a guy that's gonna somebody's gonna scoop this guy up. He's not gonna clear waivers. I don't think a guy like him is gonna clear waivers. You know what I mean? So
But that's why the reason I think he's going to make the team is because Bellinger, they said, might be moved to fullback. So if they do some roster jiggering and they designate Daniel Bellinger technically as a fullback, they can keep the 4 tight ends, which would leave Fedoni off the field for the practice squad. So you'd have Theo Johnson, you'd have Greg Dulcich, and you have Daniel Bellinger, and then you have Chris Manhertz, right? Because Manhertz is in for the blocking game. Now, unless they think Dulcich is better and that Bellinger can be the blocking tight end that they need, I don't know how Fedoni's going to make it. Because I think Dulcich is having too good of a camp right now. I'm hearing his name constantly, day in and day out. And to me, that's a good thing. Like you said, maybe they trade him, but why do we need to trade him right now? We should trade players that, like a Devin Singletary, that, hey, man, we love having you here, but you can go be a starting back somewhere else, where the Giants don't have a tight end that we can believe in right now. Sure, Theo Johnson has potential, but Dulcich has done a little bit more. And, with their offense and lack of firepower, I think they need somebody else to emerge. Like, that's what I think it needs. I'm loving what Theo Johnson's bringing, by the way. I've heard that he's been a beast. So I'm hoping that translates to the games. Again, practice.
Well, I think Theo was bringing it on, putting it on like late last year, man. He was really putting it together, and then the injury happened at an inopportune time, and it's kind of derailed his season, obviously. So I'm hoping to see some good things from him as well.
And then do something.
Like you said, also just some of the young guys we have on defense, the Tyler Nubens, the Drew Phillips of the world, man. I think these guys can benefit from the additions out there in the secondary with Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. I think they can help elevate the games of those young guys from a season ago, those young rookies, second year players that had pretty good, solid rookie campaigns, man. So I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited. Not that I think the Giants are going to be overly going to be some good team. You know what I mean? That's yet to be determined. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I just feel very confident when I say that this is going to be a vastly improved football team, and we're not going to get the pathetic football that we saw a season ago. Because it was just. I mean, that's what. There's no better word for it. It was pathetic. The last season was an absolute joke, and I think we've come a long way from that. At least I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
I agree with you there. The one thing that that people need to realize is that when you have a season as bad as it was, and it's masked right now because of the fact that we didn't fire anybody, right? Normally you're firing everybody. Coach Jim, everybody's getting toasted, right? But because of that, and because of how the draft went with Neighbors and Tracy, and now you have Carter, Dart, and possibly some of the guys in this draft, some of the things are being exonerated. That's why, Nomad's brought up a point where he's like, oh, well, Dart's, this coach's last chance. No, this coach's last chance is looking like, you said, a competent football team. If the wheels are falling off the bus, they have legal procedure penalties, and they're doing all that garbage, then he's going to be fired regardless of what happens. And of course, you're not, if Dart his prize doesn't look competent. The only way he survives is if this team is starting to go off the rails, is to get that kid in there and have a lot of these kids develop. Like Darius Alexander, if he can play well, if Cam Scottaboo can give you anything, if Marcus Membo gets in there and plays, right? If Fedone, if the season's going right, I can give you something. That's the only way that's going to really save them. Because right now, I don't know if they're going to be a winning team. It's easy to say, yeah, you can win 8 games, but so the rest of the league. The rest of the league's not looking at the Giants as an 8-win team. Vegas is not even looking at the Giants as an 8-win team. They have about 5.5, right? So, when you have those teams that you have to beat out, the injuries happen, things are going to happen. The Giants have to be at their best every game. They cannot. Their margin for error is a lot less than some of the teams they play. Out the gate, they play Washington, Dallas, L.A., and Kansas City. Two out of those, if they can't go 2-2 out of those 4 games, the season is cooked. I don't care what anyone tells me. They cannot be less than 2-2 after that season because the schedule only gets harder. You play the Eagles, you play another hard team, and then eventually you land on the Saints like week 8 or 9, right? So
week 5, I think the Saints are actually like week 5.
Oh, that's even better.
Those first 4.
So then you have that game that's licensed up, and then you have another Eagle game real quick. Like this season could get ugly early, and if they cannot be 2-2, like think about it, you're 2-2 and you're playing the Saints, you have optimism. You're 1-3 playing the Saints. Sure, you have optimism, but still you're 1-3 going into the game against the Eagles or whatever games after that, right?
Play the Eagles twice in 3 weeks, twice in a 3-week time period.
I agree, no Mets. If they lose to Washington, to me the season's over because they've never beaten the Cowboys as long as Dak Prescott started in Big D. The only thing that gives me pause is that game is at 10 a.m. Dallas time, and maybe you catch them sleeping with their body mechanics because normally the Dallas Cowboys have been playing at 1 o'clock. But yeah, sure, your defense can win you games. But if that only works to a certain extent, right? If your team, if Russell Wilson is not dialing them up all the time, or we're getting sacked, and the other team's defense is playing well too, because we're looking at these two teams. Cowboys have sneaky talent on their side. So do the Commanders. And then you go to Harbaugh and the Kansas City Chiefs. You think the Kansas City Chiefs and Jim Harbaugh are going to lie down when they know that the Giants are a roadblock to them in their road to bigger and better things? Like, look at these first 4 games real quick before we close it out. The storylines behind them are if the Giants lose to these 2 teams, they're already 0-2 in the division. Not to mention they play 2 teams in the same division that are going to need to beat the Giants in case of strength of schedule or head-to-head tiebreakers, right? So we all think the Chargers are going to be good fighting for the top of the spot with Kansas City, right? And if the Chargers lose to the Giants and the record ends up the same in both the division and this, they go to common opponent, it's going to be big. So these teams who have Super Bowl aspirations cannot just then look at the Giants and poo-poo them. Will they be better? Yes. I want to see a competent football team. I want to see some fight. I want to see some grit. I want to see you lose a game because of a 50-yard field goal, right? Not because you can't field the fucking football team because you got to call up some guy from Walmart to come play left tackle for you who then gets injured and then you have to call up another guy. Like last year they had a guy come in and then Chris Hubbard and then he got fucking injured. Like – what are we doing? So I know I'm rambling. We're going to get to this. Things are going to flesh themselves out as the preseason goes, but you have to start at least 1-0 this season for me to believe you have any season at all.
Well, you just got to do it because when you come off a season in which you finish 0-6 in the division and you get 2 division games to start your season off, you got to make some form of a statement. And you got to figure something out. You can't, like you said, you can't drop both of those games and just go immediately 0-2 in the division after coming off a season in which you were 0-6 in the division. So I just feel like if nothing else, come out there and make some form of a statement. But I think, guys, we're at that hour and a half mark. We're going to get ready to wrap things up for this week, man. Preseason is now upon us, the full slate of preseason games, man. Enjoy the preseason as it gets underway in full effect. I mean, we had that one game last week, but now everybody gets some. Enjoy the preseason this weekend. We'll be back next Wednesday talking about everything, talking about what we saw in these games, and talking about the upcoming matchups and just talking about the NFC East the way we do it, man. Each and every Wednesday, me and my guy, super dope co-host Adam Costas, breaking the NFC East down each and every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, I apologize for the late start today. Hopefully, that won't be another issue anymore. So our regular start time will be 5:30 as always next Wednesday. And I appreciate the new guys in the chat came through supporting the stream. Jack, the guy Joe that was in there. Who else was in there? I can't even remember some of their names right now offhand. I'm sorry, but I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you like the stream, we'll definitely be back next Wednesday. And make sure y'all go sub up to Adam's channel, sub up to my channel, sub up to the Hardcore Sports Network, man. We're going to be bringing it for y'all all season long, each and every Wednesday until the last NFC East team is standing. Last year took us all the way to the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll get that again this year. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. This is my guy, Adam Costas. We'll see y'all next week. Peace. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MacDa Giants fan.